Welcome. Welcome to Refill 100, Religion, Philosophy, and Science for All. Today, in a simple manner, we will be talking about ethics. Two questions will guide our conversation, namely, what is ethics and what is ethics for? In order not to give definitions that are difficult to understand, let us simply say that ethics refers to the way we do things, to the way we reach goals, to the way we behave in public and also in private. How do we acquire things? Our car, our money, our school grades, our degrees. Legally and honestly? If this is the case, it is safe to say that we have been living and acting ethically. We are ethical persons. Now, when we reflect on our conduct orderly, systematically, and following a well-defined methodology, we enter the world of professional ethics, the world of scientific ethics. However, today, we will limit ourselves to reflect on general ideas. In ethics, the guiding principle for acting is this: do always, always good, and always, always avoid evil. As a result, ethics or ethical acting appears as deeply linked to the predisposition to do good and thereby to religion. In fact, throughout most of our history, religion was the foundational source of ethical action. But why is ethics important? Well, ethics is important to us because, as philosopher Adela Cortina says, ethics helps us to form identity and to forge individual and communal character. In addition, ethics aids to define the character of the organizations we belong to or the companies and institutions we work for. Let us consider this question. How could the character of a person or an institution not be formed if they constantly strive to do good and avoid evil? Imagine what would happen if that was the principle that guided the actions of individuals and companies or banks and governments. Everything will be so different. For the rest, how could one's character not be formed when practicing compassion, justice, and peace again and again in a serious and permanent manner? From the times of King Urnamo around the 22nd century before Christ, and through the times of King Hammurabi around the 20th century, also before Christ, and continuing through the times of Jesus of Nazareth and Prophet Muhammad, and up to the times of Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and Mother Teresa of Calcutta, practicing compassion, solidarity, justice, and peace has been what has shaped the convictions, character, and vision of good people. It is the ethical action what characterizes and distinguishes the life of a good, ethical, and generous person. This is what happened with Confucius and Mencius, those Chinese philosophers who emphasized the ethical principles of protecting others, through benevolence and respect for their dignity. They made clear that a compassionate heart cannot see the suffering of others. No doubt, putting all these values into practice builds character and aids people to live and act meaningfully. And what about the law of Moses? A law that spoke of the responsibility and obligations that all their followers had towards others. That law applied the rules of justice to all, to friends and enemies, to foreigners and nationals, to the free and the slave, to men and women, rich and poor, to the healthy and the disabled. Yes, justice was to be applied to all equally, without any distinctions. Ethics help us to take direction in life. It predisposes us to act with justice, honesty, respect, and prudence. Forming and forging oneself in these predispositions is essential to act in favor of a better world and a meaningful life. Many people say that ethics is subjective. However, what must be recognized is that, although depending on personal interpretations, ethics is intersubjective. That is to say, ethics depends on everyone. We do ethics together when we discuss how to improve our communities, our schools, our clubs, or our churches. We do ethics, good ethics, every time we act in favor of justice, fraternity, and equality. Ethics is in the making when we discuss and make agreements to eradicate corruption, crimes, theft, deceit, treason, and bribery. As individuals and society, we need to reflect on what we really believe in. We must clarify the priorities we have and pursue in life. What are these priorities? Football? The consumption of alcohol? Watching Netflix series? Our formation and education as students, believers, professionals, and citizens? Yes, ethics builds character. However, that only happens if we act with transparency, consistency, honesty, intelligence, and reflecting on everything we do and the way we do it. One tends to respect the leadership of teachers, politicians, office managers, and religious ministers on one condition: that one sees consistency, justice, and honesty in their lives and actions. Unfortunately, it is here where we find serious obstacles and strong disappointments to believe them and support their causes. How to believe in those teachers who teach without conviction, without passion, without commitment? People like them do not advance the formation and educational process of their students. How to trust those politicians who defend the interests of their own parties, or corporations that finance their campaigns more than the interests of the citizens who voted for them? Those kinds of people discredit and disgrace the role of public servants. And what about office managers who do not recognize or reward the efforts and work of their subalterns fairly and equitably. Isn't that what is happening with those CEOs who have extraordinary salaries? Salaries that border on the ridiculous, while their workers only get the small and minimum wages? And what about the religious leaders who use the religion and holy books to establish little kingdoms of wealth and power instead of working in favor of compassion, justice, and peace? If that continues, religion will continue being an instrument of alienation rather than humanization, an instrument of control rather than a factor of growth in adult faith. When leaders act with conviction and consistency, with transparency and honesty, they can convince many to act in the same way. For indeed, people follow good example. Now, since evil must be avoided, anti-values and negativities must also be eliminated. In the pursuit of a minimum life, we must avoid hatred, envy, superficiality, and everything that leads us to division, violence, and destruction. At this point, perhaps we can conclude the way we began. What is ethics? What is the purpose and value of ethics? Well, as already said, ethics is important in our lives because it helps us to build character, because it offers us advice and recommendations on how to conduct ourselves in life. Ethics, indeed, can give full meaning to a human life. Ethics predisposes us to do good, aids us to cultivate solidarity and generosity, and helps us to avoid selfishness and self-glorification. Ethics encourages us to seek and find personal fulfillment. And paradoxically enough, the principle that ethics offers us to achieve all this is simple and accessible to all. Do always, always good, and always, always avoid evil. Every day, all year round, and in all circumstances. Friends, may ethics, ethical action, inform and direct your lives and your daily acting. This is all for today. See you next time here at Refill 100. By the way, do not forget to subscribe. Give a like to this video if you liked it, and help us to promote this channel. Bye now. See you next time.